Welcome back. All right. So on the weekend, I paused my series looking at teams that missed the playoffs this year. I felt like, there was a game on all the time, and I didn't want it to get buried. I'm trying to be a little bit smarter in when I make and post videos now, so the video I put together doesn't just get buried in the midst of everything else that day. So the Philadelphia Flyers and a team that finished fourth from the bottom. It was kind of rude that they lost in regulation in their final game, to be honest, because I, as a Boston fan, had kind of hoped that Boston would be at this point fourth from the bottom. But here we are. The Philadelphia Flyers have been outside of the playoff picture for a while, but I think there are some real reasons here to be optimistic. There's also some reason here to think next year could be another year outside the playoffs, depending on how they go with this. So 2021, 2022, as I look at the last 4 years, and I've done this with a couple others as well, 61 points for them that year, a record of 25, 46, and 11. Then 2022, 2023, a record of 31, 38, and 13, 75 points. And then last season, they surprised people by staying in the hunt longer than expected. Record of 38, 33, and 11, 87 points. And their strong play, I think, was because of the way that Tortorella was coaching them. I also think the collapse at the end of that season was because the way that they were being coached. There's an expiration on that. It expends so much energy. And this year, it didn't feel like the players were all that interested in that again. Either that or the team just wasn't as good. 33, 39, and 10 record, 76 points. So they go from 87 points to 76. And John Tortorella was shown the door towards the end of the season. They went 28, 36, and 9 under John Tortorella. And then under Shaw, as interim coach, 5, 3, and 1. So they definitely had a bit of a bump after the dismissal of John Tortorella, which I think anybody could have predicted. That was something that we've seen in other locations when he's been gone as well. Not so much with Columbus, but we have seen that elsewhere. Now, Matvei Michkov is going to be a star in this game. 80 games, 26 goals, 37 assists, 63 points. And it'll be interesting to see who the permanent coach is for Philadelphia next year and what he gets out of this team with Michkov, and can you get him up into the 85, 90 point range as soon as next season? Because he has that talent. There are going to be mistakes. And so the next coach, it's going to be a matter of, do you just let him play through those mistakes and learn? Or do you limit his ice time and make sure he's got the right line mates? And do you bench him on occasion because of some of those mistakes? It'll be interesting to see what tactic they take with Michkov. I don't think he was injured this season. I think the 2 games that he didn't play was because he got healthy scratched by John Tortorella. And then there's Tyson Foerster, who had a slow start but a pretty good finish. 81 games, 25 goals, 18 assists, 43 points. Very good two-way forward, and so he's a key guy for them going forward. Drysdale, who was acquired in the Gauthier deal. Gauthier went to Anaheim. Gauthier had a good season. Drysdale, up and down year. 70 games, 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 points. It's important to keep in mind that defensemen sometimes take a little bit longer to become, a star or top 2 guy. Drysdale, still a young player. We'll see how it goes for him next year, and maybe the coaching change helps Drysdale. Luchenko only played 4 games, but it was remarkable that Jet even got into the lineup with them to start the season. He did not record a point. He got sent back down. I think that experience is going to help him. Luchenko was lights out when it came to all of the strength testing and everything headed into the draft, and that's why Philadelphia drafted him where they did. He was not expected to go that early. I think they'll give him every opportunity to make the lineup out of camp again this coming fall. The goaltending is a discussion point with Philly, and so we have to talk about that here. Ersson went 22, 17, and 5 with an .883 save percentage. I like Ersson, but he should be a backup at best, and hopefully he can have his numbers bounce back a little bit. Fedotov had a rough year. 6, 13, and 4 record, .880 save percentage, and we'll talk about him again when we get over to this portion of the board. And then Kolosov. Famously, Kolosov wasn't sure about coming over, and then he didn't want to play in the AHL, or he wanted to make sure he had a chance to play in the NHL. They gave him NHL games, 5, 9, and 1 record, but the .867 save percentage, that's tough. And so this is a team that is looking for an improvement in net. It is not a great goalie market this summer, but maybe Danny Briere can figure something out. and make this work. Now, their goals scored per game this year, they were 24th with 2.83 goals scored per game. Goals against, 28th. I would think at the very least they want the goals against to come down. 3.45 goals against per game is not going to get it done. Their power play was bad, and it's been bad for a while. They were 30th at 15%. And as bad as that looks, that's better than last year. I think they were like 12%. Philadelphia was the team that last season during reviews I was just putting Philly gets a power play, but it sucks. And it was easy. I knew they weren't going to score on the power play, and 9 times out of 10 they didn't. Their penalty kill, a little better, 77.6%. That's 20th in the National Hockey League. So you want a little better penalty killing, but you want a lot more on the power play, and that's where Michkov, I think, could shine. His creativity with the puck, he could actually help that power play get a lot better next season. The interesting part, too, is that when you look at shots per game, and I wanted to put this on the board, 27 shots for and 27 shots against. So, and this doesn't take into account high danger chances and all of that, but that does tell you that in terms of shots, they were right there with everybody. They just were not able to garner enough victories and enough points to get very far. Now, a couple of veterans I wanted to talk about. Travis Konechny, who is a very, very talented forward. The points don't show it. 82 games, 24 goals, 52 assists, 76 points. I think Konechny on a team like Tampa could be pushing 100 points. I do. I think he's that creative. He is a smart player. And, really, really solid forward for this team for a long time to come. Couturier is going to be an interesting one to watch this summer. 79 games, 15 goals, 30 assists, 45 points. It was really nice to see Couturier play a full season. How much longer is he a Flyer? And all that fun stuff. I'm not saying he necessarily gets moved, but if in the event that the Philadelphia Flyers decide to make a big change, that's a name that could garner some interest, that kind of thing. One thing to keep an eye on this summer is they have some cap space. $24.72 million in cap space, according to Puckpedia, for this summer. So, goaltending, they might be able to go out and spend and get a goaltender. And I say that understanding that the goaltending market is not fantastic this summer when it comes to free agents or likely trade targets as well. Now, RFAs, they've got some, and this is going to eat into that $24.72 million in cap space. Noah Cates. I like Cates. Forrester's the big one, though, isn't he? So Forrester, I would think they're going to want to sign him to a long-term extension. Peltier, Cam York, also restricted free agent. I would think Cates, probably a 3 or 4 year deal. York, probably about the same. Peltier, it'll be interesting to see if they just give him like a bridge deal, maybe a year, maybe 2. But Forrester's the one that I think they're going to try to get that long-term extension with because of his potential as a two-way forward in the National Hockey League. Now, the Fedotov contract is problematic. He has 1 more year left on it. It's a $3.28 million cap hit, and he hasn't played up to that contract, obviously. So if they're looking to improve their goaltending, they may also want to create some cap space by moving a goaltender if they decide to move Fedotov. And then that would free up that $3+ million to go out and get somebody else on top of the $24.72 million they already have. Keeping in mind, as I said, the RFAs. So the math gets a little tricky, but that's what the GMs are paid for, is to figure all that out. Well, they bring in capologists, but you guys know what I mean. So they do have some draft capital. They have 3 first-round draft picks this year. They have 4 second-round draft picks and 2 fifth-round draft picks. And then in 2027, they have 2 first-round draft picks and 2 third-round draft picks. So there's some extra draft picks there if they want to get better soon. There's some extra draft picks there if they want to get better eventually. Meaning, you draft those players, wait for them to develop, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, Philadelphia could very well win the draft lottery, and if they do, I think they'll run up to the podium to draft first and pick up Schaefer, because Schaefer on the blue line could be exactly what Philadelphia needs at this stage. Now, upcoming players, they do have a defenseman coming up in Oliver Bonk. The expectation, I would think, is that he should be able to get into the lineup next year. Denver Barkey has definitely got some interest as well as a forward. And goaltender, Yegor Sevragin. So, I don't know how long it'll be before he comes over and they give him a shot, but clearly, European goaltenders are their forte at this point in time. And so Sevragin would be another European goaltender coming over. Although the ceiling on Sevragin is higher than the ceiling on any of the 3 goaltenders they currently employ. Hathaway led the way for this team with 257 hits. Garnet Hathaway's been a good, solid addition for them. And I do get the feeling he's really bought into what this team's doing and into the rebuild. Nick Seeler, 200 block shots. I have never seen that I can remember a Flyers fan being down on Seeler. as a player, great player, and plays his role well. In the playoffs right now, you've got Benoit in Toronto playing his role really well, and it kind of reminds me of Sealer and the role he plays in Philadelphia, although Sealer does get more minutes in Philly than Benoit's going to get in Toronto. Couturier's face-off percentage was excellent, 56.1%. That is something to keep in mind as well. And so, yeah, Couturier in the face-off circle is excellent, which either Philadelphia holds on to because you got that veteran forward who can win face-offs, or maybe there's a team out there to be like, hey, he's a veteran forward, he can take faceoffs, he's a leader. We shall see. Now, goals scored by period. They did not have a single period where they outscored the opposition, but much like a couple other teams I've talked about, not bad in the first period. They've allowed 72. They've would mean that the season's still going. They allowed 72 goals in the first period. They scored 64. In the second period, they allowed 108, and they only scored 79. And in the third period, they allowed 96, and they scored 83. So the second period was a problem, the long change giving them some issues. And in overtime, they were outscored 7-6. So a lot of overtime games for Philadelphia. And yeah, they got outscored 7-6 there. So I wanted to talk a little bit, too, about the AHL situation. The Phantoms eliminated the Pens in the AHL playoffs. So the Philadelphia Farm Club knocking out the Wilkes-Barre Penguins. 4 assists in 2 games in that first series for Luchenko. 2 assists as well for Emile Andre, who I don't have on the board over here. But Andre, I like him, and I think with the right amount of development and the right focus, I think Andre can be an effective defenseman in the NHL. His size is going to be an issue, obviously. And then 2 goals in 2 games for Alex Bump, a former 5th-round draft pick out of Western Michigan. Western Michigan had a pretty darn good season, didn't they? And Alex Bump, 2 goals in 2 games in that first series against Wilkes-Barre. Now, quality starts are an issue, so I'll come back to this goaltending issue just to kind of underline it and finish it off. Ersson gave a quality start to Philadelphia, meaning a save percentage of .900 or better, 42.2% of the time, which is low. But Fedotov, it was 33.3% of the time, so 1 out of every 3 games. And Kolosov, 30.8% of the time. So that has got to be the focus this summer. This is a team that has struggled to score, but I do think there's a lot of upside with Michkov and with some of the young players on this squad. Bobby Brink's a name that's not on the board, but I like Brink. I still think there's some offensive upside there. And yeah, it could be an interesting summer for the Flyers as they go through this rebuild. And with the expectations for next year, like you look at what Montreal's done, and Montreal makes the playoffs. I could see Philadelphia, if they make the right changes to this roster, being in a position that's similar, where they have a good young team and maybe they're able to win some games people don't expect and be that surprise team. Not completely unlike the run in 2023-2024, which fell just short. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Philadelphia Flyers, their present, their future. Can they get back into the hunt for a playoff spot next year? I think they'll be closer. I don't think they necessarily make the playoffs, but the summer hasn't started yet. And that's the magic of the summer. Big changes can take place, and then we can decide who we think made the right moves that summer. So let me know what you think those right moves would be. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.